Hey y'all, my name is Margaret Ann Stocks and I am presenting Solar System Shuffle for EDIT8400E in spring 2021. Thanks for coming. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit of what Solar System Shuffle is. So my idea was to create some sort of kinesthetically motivating game for general education fourth graders to learn about the solar system and about our universe and the stars and all of the wonderful things there are to learn. I've noticed that this unit in fourth grade can be about as much fun or very, very boring, depending on how the teacher teaches it. Outer space in general can be very overwhelming, and it's so interesting, and it's hard to kind of lend the right attention to the right parts to keep your students engaged. So that's why I really wanted to create a game to help us learn, but also incorporate some fun into it as well. So what the Solar System Shuffle is a quest. It is for students to become expert astronauts on all of the planets and in the solar system as a whole. It offers aspects of trivia, a lot of movement, a lot of teamwork, and a lot of social stimulation and communication skills, which are all things that are very important to me as an educator, and I think that are very stimulating for fourth graders too, since they get to have a lot of that social time while they're learning. And I'll get into the specifics of how we play the game in just a minute. I really wanted my students to not only grasp the standards of this unit, but also a lot of the interesting, important, fun parts of the planets that we don't really get to talk about at school. So there's a lot of random trivia thrown in there, and I am very excited to tell you about it. So some of my favorite parts is actually a piece of chalk is one of the most important materials in this game, and you cannot play it without it. Students actually build the game board themselves, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute and give you a little more detail of why I made that choice. But they get to make the board themselves. They will also have trivia cards on each planet on their game board, and they themselves actually get to act as the pawn. So you'll need the cutout, like the laminated cutouts of each planet, the trivia cards, a recording sheet so that they can report back all the learning they had, and they will also work with a buddy. At each planet, they will have to answer a series of trivia questions to be able to become an expert on that planet and move on to the next one. So this is an example of the front of one of the cards. There's a lot of fill in the blank. It's also differentiated with colors, and I'm going to talk more about that at the end. But it's differentiated in colors and kind of gives a variety of questions: weather, location, proximity to Earth or to the sun, important markings on each planet, and really just a good variety to keep kids engaged. There's also asteroid cards, which hint at a little bit of randomness in the game. So students who may be like really struggling or really dominating will kind of have to pull those chance cards. They'll either have to answer an extra question, get to zoom on to the next planet, or maybe even go back. So that kind of is some added challenge for any students that are kind of stagnant one way or the other. So here is my favorite part. This is a picture of a game board that me and some students drew with some chalk in the parking lot during my pilot. So as you see, there's the sun in the middle, and that's where all the astronauts will start, and they'll have to answer a series of training questions to be able to move on to the other planets to answer those trivia questions. It is organized the same way our solar system is, so it kind of instills that idea of the revolution around the sun, and also will help them hopefully remember the order of the planets. And for example, one of the training questions is, what is the order of the planets? And we like to use my very excellent monkey just served unicorn noodles, which all of the first letters of that are the first letters of all the planets in order from the sun. So anyway, that is how they will hop along the board. and they will move together in pairs and pull up a trivia card, have to answer 2 to 3 trivia questions, and record the answers. All of the answers are on the back and upside down so that the students can self-monitor and self-check, similar to the Trivial Pursuit cards, which I'm going to get into why I chose to make it that way now. So some of the tough decisions, I'll start with the card layout. I really wanted a way to differentiate learning for my students. While it's a general education class, there are some students who really just take things and run with them and have an easier time than others. And there are some other students that take a minute to kind of get off the ground. So I really wanted it to appeal to all my kids, and I also wanted it to be independent. I didn't want them to have to come up and ask a bunch of questions or feel like, oh my gosh, this is too hard. I need a teacher with me all the time. I really wanted them to be able to take ownership of their learning. And so that's why I chose to make the card layout colored. So I will either assign groups certain colors that they will answer those questions throughout the game. And the top color is the easier questions. They're kind of just more general idea of the planet. That's going to be more the information that we cover in class for sure. And then at the bottom is going to be a lot more specifics like names of markings or other harder questions that they'll have to either have done some serious reading or done their own research to know the answers to. So I really wanted to give a variety of options for those questions, and that is why I thought really hard about how to make that card layout work. Additionally, the game board. I really wanted to incorporate movement, but I also loved the idea of this being an easy game to kind of pull out so that students can do it independently. And the more I thought about it, the more I love the idea of it being a human board game and letting them really be able to take ownership of their learning that way. They get to create the board and they really get to play a hand in the creation of the game, which I've found is very important to my big kids.